one of the things that's really alarming today is the number of young people that are deconstructing their faith, and then that's leading to a deconversion. There are a lot of reasons for that, but one reason is that they don't find intellectually satisfying answers to their questions, to their doubts. And as a philosopher and having wrestled with philosophy of religion, Christian philosophical theology, I can tell you that there are good answers to most questions and most doubts, and that if you doubt well, you're going to doubt in a way that ultimately leads to a stronger faith. And in fact, I have friends who have been through seasons of doubt, got really deep into Christian philosophy, and then as a result, they found all these great answers to their doubts, and now they have a stronger faith, a faith that is stronger than ever. So if you're in a season of doubt, know that you're not alone. And if you know somebody who's struggling with doubt, hopefully this will be helpful to them so they can have doubt done right. First, before going further, it would be helpful to actually get on the table what is deconstruction, and then how does that contrast with deconversion or a loss of faith. So Brian Zahad, in his book, When Everything Catches Fire, defines deconstruction as follows, quote, "It is a crisis of Christian faith that leads to either a reevaluation of Christianity or sometimes a total abandonment of Christianity." So in that definition, you can see there's a fork in the road. Your doubt, your deconstructing your faith can either lead you down a path of reevaluation that can strengthen, or it can lead you down a path of abandonment that leads you to foregoing your faith. My goal in this video is to hopefully get you onto the other track so that you do wrestle with your doubts, but you do it in a way that's robust and a way that's really helpful and gets you toward truth. So let me give you 5 suggestions for how to deconstruct in a way that's not likely to lead to deconversion. Number 1 is just to recognize it is okay to have doubts. All the great philosophers and theologians throughout history have wrestled with questions that raise up a lot of doubt. The problem of evil, the problem of divine hiddenness, and on, and questions about how logical is the Trinity. Is it true that Christ incarnated? What does it look like to even say that Christ became flesh? Did he have two minds, two totally distinct centers of consciousness? Was it one center of consciousness? So on. And what does it mean to say Christ atoned for our sins? There are a number of just really important questions that can go on and on and on, and there's really good answers to them. So if you're struggling with them, just know you're in good company. The greats like Augustine, Aquinas, and then even today, people like Richard Swinburne, Eleanor Stump, Marilyn Adams, Alvin Plantinga, a lot of great Christian philosophers have gone deep on these issues. So know that you're in good company. Number 2 is to doubt with the best. So what is not helpful often is to look to people on social media who are also struggling with doubt, but they're not really going to any informed source. They're sort of just stuck in their head and wrestling perhaps with atheistic material that may not even be that good. If you're going to wrestle with your faith, consult the best atheist thinkers, consult the Paul Drapers, consult the Graham Oppies, and really wrestle with the strongest objections to your faith. But don't just go onto social media and hear some sort of semi-wacky, well, the Christian God is just an evil monster, right? Something like that. Now, people have made that argument, but that's not really a good doubt. It's not fully formed. What does that even mean to say that? And then secondly, what are the responses to that? There's good responses to that as well. So the third suggestion is to doubt with the intellectual virtues. That is, use good habits of thinking when you're doubting. What are the intellectual virtues? Well, they're habits of mind that tend to lead toward truth. So here, think about things like open-mindedness, perseverance, clarity or precision in thinking, critical thinking, and so on. So make sure to you exercise the very best in intellectual virtues as you're wrestling with your doubts, because that's the sort of thing that will lead you to truth. Next is number 4. This sort of relates to what I was talking about earlier. Don't just sort of go onto social media and get stuck in an echo chamber. Now, this can be on social media where it happens a lot. There's these different people who are deconstructing, and perhaps they have deconstructed, but they've also deconverted, and they're very convincing in their sort of questions, but it's not actually very rigorously done if you sort of peel back the layers. So don't get stuck in that loop of deconstruction that tends to lead to deconversion when you're talking to people who haven't really wrestled deeply with the issues that they've considered. Now, remember, it's often a crisis of faith. Part of it's intellectual, but know that some people who are deconstructing are doing it for emotional reasons. And that can be a whole host of reasons that I won't speak to, but just know that it's not, sometimes the intellectual doubts can be a cover for what's really at stake, which is the emotional doubts. And I've had emotional doubts regarding whether God was good. When my dad passed away suddenly, I thought, why would a good God allow this to happen? Now, I wasn't really wrestling with it intellectually. I might have framed it in an intellectual way, but really I was struggling emotionally with the emotional problem of evil because I was in so much pain and hurt. So just be aware of that. And also make sure to expose yourself to various Christian traditions. So another echo chamber is to get stuck in your particular, like you're a Protestant, you're a Catholic, you're an Eastern Orthodox, and you think that that's the one true Christianity, or it's like the only way to think about Christianity. And then you may come across, for instance, if you're an evangelical or Protestant, a Catholic apologist who makes a really good case for Catholicism. And you think, wow, wait a minute. Am I even following God? Because I'm not part of the one true church, and so on. And so you need to kind of be aware that there are the other perspectives on Christianity that don't have to rock your boat, but there's good responses to that as well from your own tradition. But just be aware that there are many different ways of thinking about what it means to have a Christian faith and the core doctrines of the Christian faith. And then lastly, 5th, I recommend journaling about your doubts. This doesn't have to be very extensive, but it's important to kind of keep a record of, like, what am I wrestling with currently? What question? What sources am I seeking out to find answers to my questions? For instance, if you were wrestling with the problem of horrendous evil, let's say you just watched a documentary on the Holocaust and you're like, oh my gosh, how could a good God let the Holocaust happen, right? It's so horrendous. The suffering was just so egregious. And I mean, there's not enough words to explain how bad it was. And then you might start doubting your faith for that reason. Well, for instance, there's a person named Marilyn McCord Adams. She's passed away, but excellent Christian philosopher. And she wrote a whole book on horrendous evil. And she came up with a really good solution for making sense of it within the Christian faith. So when you actually go ahead and are journaling, make sure to track what you're actually seeking out so you can look at it, and then you can ask people, is this a good resource on this topic? What would you recommend on this topic? I'm wrestling with this. And then also to record when you get some insights. Like, I figured out that there's this defeat condition that can make sense of the evil that seems to make a person's life not worth living because it's so bad. But, there's this condition that can make sense of it. It's still an evil, but it can make sense of it within the totality of the person's life, especially given the afterlife. So that's just one example. I've discovered the defeat condition. That has a great way of handling horrendous evils and even animal suffering and so on. So record that, and then also record like what further questions you have. Where should you go next? What lines of inquiry should you pursue? So those are the 5 suggestions I have. Again, I'll look at my notes. It's okay to have doubts and to express them. Doubt with the best of them. Look for the best atheist and Christian and so on sources. And number 3, doubt with the intellectual virtues. Use your mind well when you're doubting. Number 4, don't doubt in an echo chamber. Make sure to get outside your own social media bubble. The algorithm will just feed you more of what you're already, the rabbit hole you're going down. Make sure to get out of that. And then also make sure to consider other perspectives within Christianity to get out of the echo chamber of your own tradition. And additionally, number 5, journal about your doubts. Make sure to write down your progress so that, for instance, let's say you get an insight and you start getting stuck in your head again on that, you can go back to your journal and say, oh, remember, I answered this. I already thought about this, and I came up with this as part of the answer. And so I can kind of move on from that. I don't have to stay stuck in my head, sort of spinning around in a circle, which I myself can do. I'll see you next time on Christian Philosophy Academy, helping you deeply understand your faith so that you can strengthen it and defend it.